going back a little bit, a couple of years ago, I was personally quite involved in a team that was really difficult to hire. It was the Open Ethereum team. Open Ethereum previously was called the Parity client. So it was at that time actually the second most used client running Ethereum. And Gavin Wood said, we have to prioritize working on Polkadot, so we cannot do this anymore. And so we kind of stepped in and we said, okay, we're going to build up a team that can continue developing this. And actually that's how I got in contact first time with the next speaker, Marcel, because actually he got involved in this project as being the project manager of this project. And that's how we got involved in Gnosis and in Ethereum development. And well, Gnosis had still a very significant, still has a very significant treasury, and then the DeFi summer started and became more and more obvious there was a big opportunity cost in not participating, and Marcy had the exact right background to understand what the opportunities are and what we are missing, and so his focus slowly shifted, doing something completely different that became super successful, and yeah, now he is running Karpatkey, and yeah, I'm very excited to hear his story today. Thanks for coming, Marcel. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Stefan, for the intro. So, hey everybody, I'm super happy to be here with you today. I'm Marce. I use the alias of Claberus. I'm the co-founder of Karpatkey. And well, I'm Argentinian. I used to live in Ukraine before coming to Portugal, a little bit more than a year ago. And so yes, super happy to be here. Today we're going to discuss a little bit about the current state of DAO treasuries, and also what we believe is going to be the future of DAO treasury management and also fund management in general. Cool. So here you can see a little bit of a landscape of how DAO treasuries look like nowadays for DAOs. You can see that most of the assets in DAOs are the native tokens, right? And that looks a little bit weird, right? Because one could ask, why is that most treasuries have only their own tokens, which are, super illiquid and difficult to sell if there is a requirement to find a DAO. And I have this maybe controversial opinion that I think the main reason why we have these very large native token allocations is because they were never meant to be used. I suspect that usually teams have this very large allocation mostly to avoid or to have some kind of backup or insurance against dilution. And at least in practice, we can see that nobody's using these tokens. Yeah, it's okay. So why is this important, right? The problem we have here is that with these treasuries are denominated in native tokens, and the expenses of the DAOs are in USD stablecoins. And in fact, many people would say that usually nobody should consider these native tokens as part of the treasury. And I disagree, because there are still several tools or firepower you can use these native tokens to manage funds. But this is a long talk, and we're not going to go there. So the main problem is that when we are in a bear market like we had last year, these tokens depreciate in value, and it's super difficult, really difficult to fund the operations of the DAO. And so this is a challenge we have, and I'm always thinking, why is it that nobody's thinking about this problem, right? And I think the root cause of this problem is that, well, we're building DeFi, it's finances, but finance professionals and accountants, economists are completely underrepresented in our industry. And this is something that we hopefully want to change, because it's really not working for DAOs. The way usually DAO treasuries are managed are usually with some part-time effort from some DevOps team or operations team. And really there is nobody fully dedicated, no financial professionals dedicated to this. And this has a few issues, right? Let's say, for example, the first one is an opportunity cost we have for these funds that are not being used. But then in the past, we've seen, let's say, community proposals where the community proposes to diversify the treasury, to have some actions. And usually what I experience is that all of the communities giving their opinion on these topics, like especially, let's say, price. Everybody likes to talk about price. But really, we get to this analysis paralysis where nothing is done. This is what's status quo, what's happening right now. Even, let's say, with these proposals, we've seen in the past there is a potential to exploit or front run or do a sandwich with DAOs. If we know some large funds are going to happen, this happened in the past. It's really difficult to react, let's say, miss incentives, because really there's no quick reaction. And we're not even talking about risk management, right? It's impossible to do any risk management because nobody's there to do it. So, yeah. So, you know, Karpatkey manages the Gnosis DAO's treasury. So, I want to tell you a little bit how we got there. This was around 2020. And the Gnosis DAO had this very special situation where we had the largest DAO treasury, and also we were at the heart of SAFE, right? So it was super natural that we were going to be the pioneers in developing these tools and also managing our treasury. And fast forward, in 2021, we started creating these low-risk liquidity mining positions with a special emphasis in risk management. And we got most of the yield during 2021. And well, 2022, we had the DAO, we had this proposal, and this is how Karpatkey started. So in this moment, we were managing the funds with the multi-sig, right? And we were never very comfortable with this idea, right? We know it's, let's say, efficient, and we have a lot of flexibility, but it goes quite against the ethos of our industry, where a multi-sig, you know, there is collusion, there's the risk of collusion, and really this is not what we wanted. So we created, we started thinking how to build tooling to have best of these two worlds, how to have flexibility to be able to manage risk, let's say, get these liquidity mining opportunities as a secondary objective when it's possible, and also do it in a decentralized way. So this is how we started working with the Gnosis Guild team. So we created this infrastructure that is basically a safe that is owned by a DAO. So we can say the DAO is the owner of the funds. And then we have this roles modifier, which is a series of smart contracts or a module building on top of the safe that allow us to have this very granular approach to allow for several pre-approved set of actions that could allow fund managers to, let's say, do all of the things we usually would do with a common multi-sig. So we propose this solution where we can pre-approve a set of presets. Let's say that can be smart contracts, amounts, the possibilities here are very large. This can go to snapshot, right? And we have this, the magic here is, well, this is the first time in history where we can manage funds having custody of funds. Right, usually in traditional finance, if you want to manage funds, you need to hold custody. So this is the beautiful part of this approach. And also, it allows us to create more modules, more roles for different modules that allows us to automate and also have some risk management practices, like let's say, have some predefined action if there is a DPEG, or let's say if there is a flash crash and we want to repay debt, or any kind of these actions that at the heart of this, it's about an automation. And this gets me to the following slide. This is an example of a siphon module we developed for the Gnosis DAO, where it's possible to mint or borrow tokens, like you can see here in the left, and use those funds to either provide liquidity to increase the health of your token, or just do some liquidity mining in some other protocol, and be able to automate this. Let's say if the collateral value drops, automatically repay debt. So this is just a tool that could be used as a carry trade to arbitrage rates. Let's say this is something the simplest application, where you borrow at a low rate and you farm at a higher rate, and you profit from this difference. Again, this is just a risk management and an example that creates revenue for the DAOs. So far we've talked about the infrastructure, but something super important is the human layer and how we've been interacting with these DAOs to implement this DAO treasury. The goal number one of the treasury, we know, is to support the missions of the DAO, right? Whatever that means. And every DAO is different, they have different culture, and it works in a different way. Yep, and then getting revenues is a nice secondary effect. So we found that there are some positions that deserve a full-time finance people for each DAO. So we created this model where we have these treasury core units that work for each DAO. And then from Karpatkey, we support these teams for some functions that can scale, like research, risk management, smart contract deployment, reporting. So this is the state right now. Moving forward, in 2022, we got almost $20 million in revenues for the Gnosis DAO. Right now, Karpatkey is managing almost $400 million. We never had a hack so far, thankfully. And yeah. And the DAOs we're supporting right now is the Gnosis DAO, Cow DAO, ENS, Balancer. We're working either with their treasuries or endowments. And there are a few others in the pipeline, so if you're interested, we can talk about treasury management later. Right now, we're almost at full capacity, but the team is growing, so we expect to be able to work with more DAOs. And then, as this is the last slide, I want to tell you a little bit about our vision or how we expect the future of treasury management to be, but not just treasury, but also fund management. So this is what we have right now. We have basically these 3 teams focused in different products. Risk management is the core of our business, but also data reporting and execution. And we're working to abstract all of the complexity to be able to give a product that can be used by these treasury managers. And eventually, we don't want to stop in DAOs. We expect that institutions, or let's say large fund managers, should also be able to use the infrastructure, let's say the UI and all of these specialized tools, and hopefully also retail, let's say some expert users. So the thesis is quite simple. We know this is asset management, investment banking is an industry with trillions of dollars, and they're going to come to our industry. And eventually, when that happens, they're going to come to us and try to get the best practices and get the right way to manage funds, and we believe this is the right way. It's basically Karpatkey building on top of a Gnosis guild and safe. Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Any options on your, thank you for the presentation, any options on your platform like to put, for example, personal money like a regular user, not like institutional DAO, and he can save like a yield a year, which is fixed, and then later on withdraw this money, and do this mostly anonymous, in anonymous way without identity.
Well, for that, right now we're working for some kind of ETF or something, some tool that could get some index of tokens and then get some yield on top of this index. But yes, we're just developing right now this.
So yes. The question is like, I think first, I think by deploying treasuries, you receive automatically native token rewards. So you become a meta delegate for a lot of different DAOs in the ecosystem. So how do you deal with that, being a DeFi, basically, treasury manager, and now become a bit of a competition as well?
That's an interesting one. So far, mostly because nobody's doing anything in these treasuries. They're quite abandoned. Usually treasuries don't vote. Nothing is happening. So for a few treasuries, we're delegating to, hopefully we're going to build this delegate platform where we can contribute in this politician thing for DAOs. But in addition to this, we expect to delegate to other platforms, right? So yes, these people provide a valuable service.
Yes, we're going to show. Quantitative and qualitative risks. So if quantitative risk can be, to some extent, easier to integrate within some of these tools, what about qualitative risk? How do you approach that part? And especially when it's so tricky to work with DAOs. If you could talk about the distinction.
Yes, of course. So for qualitative risk, there are a few important parameters. Let's say liquidation risk. There's also DPEG risk. We use a few tools that give us early alerts. For example, we use RiskDAO, we use Hypernative. So the goal is to have these all of this on-chain data. It's received, and we can create rules based on that information. So that's qualitative risk. That's quantitative risk. And then qualitative risk, yes, for qualitative risk is sometimes it's that's quite more difficult, right? Because many times we don't have information. So let's say what's the risk of USDT DPEG, right? So yes, this is a much more challenging.
What's your take on what happened with Anchor Protocol? Because there were many treasuries in Anchor Protocol, and projects went under because they lost everything. So do you think that was risk management, or what's your opinion on going to these kind of protocols which are risky?
Do you mean Anchor Protocol?
From Luna?
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on that. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.